Take a look at your phone contacts right now. If you needed a doctor, a therapist, or an emergency hotline, you could reach one in less than 10 seconds. But for over 95% of human history, there were no hospitals, no sedatives, no diagnoses, no walls to lock a door behind. If you lived 20,000 years ago, your survival depended entirely on a tiny group of 20 to 50 people. Everyone had to pull their weight. You hunted together, tracked predators together, and slept shoulder to shoulder in the dark. Now ask yourself a question most people never think about. What happened when someone in that small group suddenly lost their mind? What did your ancestors do when a hunter began hearing voices that weren't there? When a mother stopped recognizing her own children? Or when someone became so violently unpredictable that they posed a threat to every single person in the camp? The popular myth is simple. Ancient humans were brutal, cold, and dropped anyone who became a burden. But archaeology tells a completely different story. A story that will fundamentally change how you view human nature. Picture this. It's 20,000 years ago. Outside your shelter, the wind is screaming across a frozen Eurasian steppe, cold enough to kill an unprotected human in 20 minutes. Inside, 30 people are packed together around a single dying fire. Everyone is exhausted. Everyone is hungry. And everyone's life depends on total trust. Then, in the pitch black, one of your hunters suddenly stands up. His eyes are wide, but he isn't looking at anyone in the room. He starts screaming at invisible shapes in the dark. He swings a stone axe wildly, convinced that the people he's lived with his entire life are actually monsters trying to devour him. There are no police to call. No emergency rooms. No sedatives. No doors with locks. Just 30 terrified people stuck in a dark space with a man who has completely lost his mind. What do? Do you drag him out into the blizzard to freeze? Do you strike him down to protect your children? Or do you try to save him? For a long time, we assumed ancient humans chose the brutal answer. But when archaeologists started digging into the dirt, they found a story far more shocking and far more human than anyone expected. To understand what happened next, you have to realize one thing. Back then, you didn't just live with your group. You were your group. For almost all of human history, we lived in tiny tribes of 20 to 50 people. Everyone knew your name, your parents, and your worst habits. And in a world that's small, nobody was disposable. If a hunter went missing, 10% of the camp's food vanished overnight. If a mother became sick, someone else had to nurse her baby. Every single soul was a gear in a machine that kept everyone alive. So when someone's mind began to fracture, it wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was a crisis for the entire tribe. Imagine watching your brother, the same guy who tracked mammoths with you last week, suddenly forget who you are. Imagine him muttering to voices coming out of the dirt, or retreating into a catatonic stare for days on end. You couldn't just throw him away. But you also couldn't ignore him. So the tribe did what humans do best. They started trying to solve the mystery of the broken mind. 7,000 years ago, in what is now modern France, a healer led a suffering man into the shadows. The man was likely tormented by unbearable pressure, blinding pain, violent seizures, or voices that wouldn't stop screaming inside his skull. In the eyes of the tribe, something was trapped inside him. A demon, a bad wind, or a dark spirit pressing against the walls of his head. What the healer did next sounds like something out of a horror movie. Using nothing more than a razor-sharp piece of flint and a wooden scrap, the healers sliced open the scalp. Then, hour after hour, with incredible patience, they scraped directly through the man's thick skull bone, until they reached the outer lining of his brain. They literally carved a hole into his head to let the madness out. Now, you might think this man died in agony right there on the dirt floor. But when modern scientists picked up that skull thousands of years later, they found something unbelievable. The edges of the bone were smooth and rounded. The bone had grown back. That means the man survived the operation. He lived for years afterward. And he wasn't the only one. Across ancient Europe, Peru, and Africa, we found hundreds of these skulls. In some places, more than 7 out of 10 patients survived having their heads drilled open with stone tools. Think about the level of care that took. Someone held his hand. Someone washed his blood away with herbal mixtures. Someone kept the flies off his wound for weeks while he healed. They weren't trying to torture him. They were desperately trying to pull him back from the dark. So how did the tribe decide if someone was chosen by the spirits, or just losing their grip? It all came down to a delicate boundary. Imagine 2 people in the same camp. The first person sits by the fire at night, beats a drum, falls into a deep trance, and claims to talk to the spirits of the ancestors. When the ritual ends, he snaps out of it, helps butcher the meat, and talks normally to his family. To the tribe, he isn't crazy. He's a shaman. He's the bridge to the invisible world. Now look at the second person. She hears voices in broad daylight while gathering berries. She argues with invisible enemies while the rest of the camp is trying to sleep. She stops eating, wanders off into the woods alone, and doesn't recognize her own children. Ancient people weren't foolish. They knew the difference between a sacred ritual and a mind that was falling apart. When researchers studied modern traditional tribes, they found that ancient cultures had very specific words for true madness, words that translated to acting without a mind or talking to nothing. If your mind broke in a way that wasn't dangerous, the tribe didn't lock you up. They wrapped a story around you. They gave you quiet tasks, watching the fire, carving tools, weaving baskets. Your strange visions weren't ridiculed, they were woven into the tribe's mythology. You were kept close, fed, and given a place by the fire. Because in the ancient world, being alone was the one thing that would kill you faster than madness. But what happened when compassion ran out? What happened when the voices told a hunter to strike down his own family in the middle of the night? This is the darkest chapter of the story. When someone became violently unpredictable, the tribe was backed into a corner. There were no padded cells, no chains, no pills to calm a raging mind. First, the elders would try herbal remedies, brewing bitter teas from wild nightshades and poppies to force the person into a deep, heavy sleep. If that failed, relatives would take turns physically holding the person down during violent breaks, spending endless nights awake to make sure no one got hurt. But if the violence didn't stop, if a member of the band became an ongoing threat to the survival of the children, the tribe faced a heartbreaking tipping point. Anthropologists who lived with remote nomadic groups documented a grim reality. When a person became dangerously out of control and refused all help, the elders would sit together in silence. And finally, the person's own family would make the hardest decision a human can make. They would walk their loved one deep into the wilderness and make sure they never came back. It wasn't done out of hatred. It was done out of absolute, terrifying survival. In a harsh world, a tribe of 30 people could not let one broken mind destroy everyone else. Deep inside a cave in Iraq, archaeologists uncovered the burial site of a 45,000-year-old Neanderthal man. They named him Shanidar. When scientists examined his skeleton, they were stunned by what his body revealed. Early in his life, he had taken a devastating blow to the head. It shattered his socket, leaving him blind in one eye. The brain damage paralyzed the right side of his body, leaving his arm withered and useless. He was deaf, partially blind, and severely brain damaged. He couldn't hunt. He couldn't run from predators. He couldn't contribute to the physical survival of his tribe. Yet he lived until he was an old man. For nearly 30 years, his group carried him across hundreds of miles of rough terrain. They fed him. They protected him from hyenas and lions. They sheltered him through brutal Ice Age winters. We often look back at ancient humans and think of them as crude, brutal savages who abandoned anyone who couldn't keep up. But bone after bone, cave after cave, the dirt keeps proving us wrong. Ancient humans didn't have hospitals or modern medicine. But when someone's mind or body broke, they had something we often struggle to find today. A tribe that refused to let go until the very last moment. They drilled skulls to quiet the pain. They turned wild visions into sacred stories. And when the dark came, they made sure no one had to face it alone.